Hi guys, welcome to this, our 13th lesson on the topic of leaving cert statistics. And in this lesson, this is just kind of very brief, just discuss the difference between causality and correlation, which is dealt with in your notes on page 133. Okay, just to flag the difference between these two before we have a look at a couple of questions around this topic up. All right, so remember, as we've dealt with in the previous three lessons, correlation is a relationship that exists between two variables where as one of them goes up, either one either goes up or goes down with it. So as one changes, the other changes with it. Okay, that's the idea of correlation. As one goes up, the other one either goes up or goes down with it. That's what correlation is. And we spent a bit of time looking at where that relationship exists and how strong it is. Causality then is a relationship where a change in one causes the change in the other. So we've got one variable is changing, the other one's changing with it, but it's the change in the first variable causes the change in the second one. That's not necessarily always the case. Right? So, for example, if you think of the question we did back on page 125. So back on page 125, we had a set of data that looks like this, right? So if you remember that what we had there was we had sugar consumption here, the average sugar consumption per person per day there, and over here we had a measure of tooth decay, right? And what we found there was you kind of got this set of points going up, like we got a positive correlation there, which indicates that as your sugar consumption goes up, your tooth decay goes up or tends to go up, right? That's a correlation there. Now, is there a causal relationship there? So does the change in one of these cause the change in the other one? So for example, does increasing your sugar consumption cause your tooth decay to go up? Or does an increase in tooth decay cause your sugar consumption to go up? That's what a causal relationship would be, okay? And the case is when there probably is a causal relationship. Okay, it's probably reasonable to assume that your increase in sugar consumption causes an increase in tooth decay. Okay, so that may very well be a causal relationship. And the direction of causality is which variable is causing the change in the other one, right? So if there is a causal relationship here, but it's not the change in tooth decay that's causing the change in sugar consumption, it's the change in sugar consumption is causing the change in tooth decay. That's what the direction would refer to, okay? So in that case, if there's a causal relationship, the direction would be that the change in sugar consumption causes the change in tooth decay. Okay, so that's the idea there. So the idea of a causal relationship and the direction of causality. So the change in one variable is causing or we would think, is likely to be causing the change in the other one, and then which one is the one that's causative, okay? So this is the one here, it's the sugar consumption, the change in that is causing the change in levels of tooth decay. It's not necessarily always the case, so in not every case where there is a correlation, does there have to be a causal relationship. For example, if you can imagine one like this, that let's say, for example, down here on a particular day, you're dealing with the number of ice cream sold, and along here, the incidence of street crime. This is one of these what are referred to as spurious correlations, because if you do that, you'll probably find a graph that looks something like that as well, which would suggest there is a correlation here. As the number of ice cream sold increases, the number of street crimes reported increases as well. That's what the correlation would suggest. As one goes up, the other goes up. But is there a causal relationship here? Well, probably not. I can't imagine in my own head, you know, that the more ice creams you sell, the more likely that causes a change in street crime. I mean, I don't know anybody who goes out and buys a Magnum and suddenly feels an overwhelming desire to beat the head off somebody on the street. Okay, that there's no reason in my head to think that increasing ice cream sales will lead to an increase of street crime, or vice versa. All right. You could say, well, maybe if there's a causal relationship here, the increase in street crime means the criminals have more money to spend on ice cream, but they're probably not going to be buying ice cream with it. So it's probably not a causal relationship here. In a one like this, where there's a correlation, but there's no obvious causal relationship, the change in both of them is probably the result of what's called a lurking third variable. There's something else that's causing the change in both of these. Neither one of these is causing the change in the other. There's a third variable that's causing the change in both. In this case, you probably think good weather. Okay, so the better the weather, the more ice creams you sold, and the more people who are maybe out and about to potentially be victims of street crime. Okay, the worse the weather, the fewer ice creams you're going to sell, and obviously the fewer people will be out and about. So that might result in a drop in the street crime as well. So in that case, the third lurking variable that we don't know anything about is the weather. Okay, the conditions. So when you're dealing with a relationship, a correlation like this, there may or may not be a causal relationship. Okay, it's possible for there to be a relationship between two variables, whereas one goes up, the other goes up or goes down, without the changes in one being responsible for causing the changes in the other. Right, that's the idea. So the idea of a causal relationship is where the change in one variable is responsible for the change in the other, and the direction of causality indicates which change is causing the change in the other. Okay, so which variable is changing is causing the change in the other. That's the idea of causality. Just wanted to mark that for you there because in the couple of the questions we're going to do to finish up in the next lesson, and we kind of touch base with that.